When I became a personal trainer and nutritional coach, my relationship with food did not get any better. I just learned to cover it up better. I ate the best supplements and superfoods, and I developed this impeccable plant-based diet. I cooked my own food, I had a recipe book, and I religiously counted my calories. But no matter what I did and how I looked, every morning when I looked at myself in the mirror, deep down, I hated what I saw. I took fat burners and estrogen blockers to sculpt my body, and I added contraceptive pills to the cocktail, which disconnected me from my natural rhythms and menstrual cycles, which shortly disappeared. And the constant feeling of not being good enough and pleasing others and carrying shame drove me to complete body breakdown that nearly cost me my life. My body became hijacked by crippling symptoms of weight gain, mood swings, depleted energy, cravings, overeating, gut issues, food intolerances, debilitating menstrual pain, irregular periods, and a huge hormonal mess that left me disconnected from my body and ashamed and defeated. And for the first time in my life, I experienced what thousands of women all across the world go through for years. I started putting on weight uncontrollably. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I exercised, how many calories I ate, what diet approach I did, keto, paleo, high carb, low carb, trust me, writing diet plans and fitness plans for a living, for the first time in my life, I had no answers. I knew there was more to it than just food and exercise, and I was correct. I used my expertise to heal my own metabolic storm and my relationship with food, and I put it all into a methodology that has now helped hundreds of women with results that blew me away. And now I use my multidimensional mind-body approach to guide women into the most profound states of emotional and physical healing. There are 7 key metabolic hormones that work hand in hand to control our weight. 99% of fat retention is hormonal in women. Energy levels, menstrual cycles, hunger, cravings, gut, skin, brain health, mood, and even our motivation. Essentially, hormones are chemical messengers that signal to organs vital information about the state of our bodies and our surroundings, so that the body is always in the loop of what the hell is going on the outside. It's like a very well curated orchestra. If there is a poorly tuned violin, for example, the whole orchestra slowly collapses, correct? The same way, if there is one hormone that is over or underproduced, meaning it's out of balance, the whole cascade of reactions that the hormone is responsible for will suffer. And when these 7 key metabolic hormones aren't in their natural balanced state, it's pretty impossible for the body to do the same. So simple things like how the body metabolizes fat, uses sugar for energy, helps us wake up in the morning, produces eggs in our ovaries and the endometrial lining. All of these vital things have the ability to just collapse if the hormones aren't in balance. And so, unfortunately, what the 91% of women who still struggle with their body image and resort to diets that fail 95% of the time don't know is that the balance of these 7 key metabolic hormones is determined by what we think, what we feel, and what we eat. It will start with what we think and what we feel. Hormones are messengers. They rely on instructions from our nervous system, whilst the nervous system constantly is receiving information from the stored memories in the mind and emotions. The nervous system responds to the environment around us based on the emotions attached to these memories. So the information that our mind stores is absolutely vital for 2 reasons. Firstly, it determines our relationship with ourselves, which is the reflection of the relationship with the external environment, like food, sex, people, practically like every activity on earth. And secondly, it teaches our nervous system how to cope with stress from the surrounding environment. So I'm going to ask you an honest question. How much do you think stress is affecting your hormones right now? 40%? 60%? Do you give up? 99%. 99% of the time, stress is the root cause of all hormonal imbalances. So how we process and integrate emotions determines how we deal with stressful life situations, which translates into how the hormones pass this message along to inform the body we're in danger in a state of emergency. So there is nothing wrong with your willpower, my love. When the chain of hormones becomes out of balance, hormones begin to control your cravings, your mood, your appetites. And I know how miserable it feels because I've been there. I've sat wishing someone would tie me down to my sofa just so that I don't go back to the kitchen for another serving of cake and cookies and ice cream because I already had so much of it. So now that you understand the mind-hormone connection, you might be surprised to hear that the first step isn't resetting these 7 key metabolic hormones. The first step is about redefining your relationship with yourself to retrain the mind what safety and intimacy in the body really feels like. This is needed to lower the stress response in the body first. Let me explain. The way you think and feel and act right now determines who you are both physically and mentally. So no matter what you eat, the fitness regime you do, the supplements that you take, this will not change you into the healthy and fit and glowing woman that you want to be, because your identity right now does not align with that. The identity you embody today is what drives your habits. So if you desire to have an ideal body shape, that is an outcome, not an identity. So you search for a solution. The solution you've been told is to go on a diet, which is an outcome-based process, not a process you learn to identify yourself with. Are you with me? So the diet does not align with your current identity. Result, you're still struggling even when the diet has finished because your identity does not align with the new habits. Your identity is made up of 2 things. What your mind finds safe and familiar, this decides your daily habits, and how you perceive yourself. This decides how you treat yourself every single day. And this is why the percentage of women who struggle is so high. Women get caught up in cycles of trying diet after diet, fitness programs, personal trainers, nutritionists, because it is a mode of self-sabotage by default. I will repeat this again. Women are stuck in unsuccessful solutions because their current identity is sabotaging them. There are parts within us that can hold us back from our greatest breakthroughs. You have to be willing to be the breakthrough. And the only way you can do this is by deciding to become the embodiment of a healthy, powerful, sensual, sexual woman who lovingly cares for her body. How does that woman show up? That woman has built a relationship with herself so intimate that allows her to communicate with her body when there is stress in life. That woman doesn't cut corners using sugar, alcohol, cigarettes, and overeating to avoid how she truly feels. She makes space for her feelings. That woman doesn't hate spending time connecting with food and cooking it and enjoying it because she knows that is where her body is learning to make the right choices. That woman looks in the mirror every morning like it's her first time, with respect and love. Most people end up at the doctor's office 10 years too late, like my client Rajda, when her symptoms became debilitating and life-threatening, or my client Elisa, who needed a blood transfusion because of a simple hormonal and emotional imbalance in her body that we fixed in 3 months' time using her formula method. The symptoms that you are experiencing right now are your body's way of communicating to you the unexpressed parts of your subconscious mind and emotions. You have to learn how to listen to them so it's not too late. Things like PMS, periods, hot flashes, weight gain, water retention, infertility, digestive issues, intolerances, migraines, night sweats are not normal. They must be respected and addressed now. So let me share with you the signs and symptoms of each hormone imbalance and what that means. I will go in order of the 7 key metabolic hormone reset. And what's beautiful about this approach is by resetting the whole chain of the 7 key metabolic hormones in this order, the formula works for every woman, no matter her age, because we are not treating the symptoms. We are treating the cause with holistic nutrition to bring back natural balance to each hormone, which happens to be an incredibly easy and tasty process. So let's begin with the stress hormone cortisol. The most typical signs and symptoms are raised blood sugar levels that lead to overeating and cravings, a suppressed immune system which leads to colds and flu and bacterial infections like constant UTIs, difficulty digesting food, feeling bloated, storing extra fat around the belly, having mood swings from anxiety to depression and lack of sleep, painful menstruations or a lack of heavy bleeds, PMS, are only a few of the major indicators that the nervous system is overstimulated and the hormone cortisol needs to be reset. And when not in its natural state, cortisol impact has a capacity to wreak havoc on the hormone system simply because it is the king of metabolic hormones. It can change the metabolic state of your body in minutes during moments of stress, which also teaches the body to remember stress. Once we tackle cortisol, the body has the ability to put its guard down. It has no need to accumulate emergency fat because guess what? There is no emergency. And because the immune system can finally go back to doing its job, you can say goodbye to dodgy gut issues and food intolerances and skin rashes and fat accumulation, lack of sleep and energy, and say hello to the things you weren't able to do because of it. This hormone falls under the first 3 days of the reset called the nervous system recalibration of the 7 key metabolic hormone reset module. Next is thyroid. Fatigue, lack of sleep, weight gain or weight loss, puffiness, especially around the face, anxiety, depression, excessive sweating or lack of sweating, muscle and joint aches are all symptoms of fluctuations of the thyroid hormone. The thyroid is an incredibly important piece of the metabolic puzzle simply because the thyroid is in charge of the metabolism and the development of your organs, including your heart, muscles, bones, digestion, ovaries, uterus, placenta, and even the brain gets a piece of thyroid. This hormone falls under days 4 and 6 in the metabolic rescue reset. Hormone number 3 is insulin. Here's the deal. Insulin is the sugar daddy of metabolism. Until I reset my insulin, for the first time in my life, I really thought I had no self-control around food. So I surrendered to my cravings, which made me eat more calories than I had to burn off at the gym, and it killed my self-esteem. And turns out we all have different insulin responses to sugar. And when insulin sensitivity is impaired, meaning the body cannot properly respond to insulin, it's not always symptomatic, so we can't see any symptoms. Signs of raised blood sugars are greater appetite, hunger, carbohydrate and sugar cravings, feeling lightheaded and weak without food for a few hours, higher thirst, urination, headaches, suppressed immune system, and slower scar healing are a few of the symptoms you might be seeing. More serious signs for impaired insulin are inability to lose excess fat, insulin resistance, hypo and hyperglycemia, and type 2 diabetes. And we will deal with insulin in days 7 and 9 in the craving control reset. Next up is leptin and ghrelin. Unfortunately, overeating is not just a psychological problem. It is a physiological problem, meaning it begins in the stomach. No matter how much willpower you have, if you have leptin resistance, it will be really hard not to feel hungry all the time. And there are 2 primary hormones that tell the brain if the stomach is full or empty. Leptin tells the brain when it's time to stop eating. Ghrelin tells the brain when the stomach is full. When leptin isn't working properly, it can cause the brain to signal a false state of starvation to the body. And this means you still keep wanting to eat more. And ghrelin, when we keep snacking and eating ever so often, becomes accustomed to the frequent feeding patterns. And it tells the brain, hey, we're empty, feed us. And the hormone reset for these 2 hormones is vital, so we can finally eat when the body requires energy instead of all the time. We deal with leptin and ghrelin in days 12 and 14 of hunger rebalance reset. Next up is estrogen. Have you noticed irregular or heavy or absence of periods, accumulation of weight around your belly and arms especially, trouble sleeping, mood swings, low sex drive, bloating, fatigue or anxiety, or maybe you've come off contraception 3 to 6 months ago, or maybe you have 2 or more of the symptoms I've just mentioned. Or you were diagnosed with estrogen dominance, endometriosis and PCOS. These could be symptoms of low and high estrogen in the body. Now, I will keep things really simple. Along with fertility, sex hormones play a huge part in our metabolic state, and to your surprise, many of our urges, decisions, and emotions. And I cannot isolate estrogen because it is tightly interlinked with other hormones that I discussed in detail in her formula course. And unfortunately, cortisol has an upper hand when it comes to the balance of sex hormones. The body will always choose survival over anything else, including reproduction. You must remember this. So when sex hormones are even slightly out of balance, the metabolism cannot kick off. It will not kick off, because these hormones are constantly talking to other hormones like insulin and thyroid. We deal with estrogen and accompanying sex hormones in days 14 to 16 in sex hormone bliss. Finally, testosterone. Levels of testosterone and other androgens, along with the hormones I already mentioned, are heavily impacted by the environment around us. There are disruptors that can raise testosterone in women and lower testosterone in men, which can lead to a higher chance of reproductive disorders, like I mentioned, PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. There are even disruptors that can turn testosterone into estrogen. And unfortunately, there are thousands of chemicals that can mimic estrogen and lead to higher than normal estrogen levels, which can create dominance over progesterone, which then can lead into fertility issues and miscarriages and endometriosis, obesity, and diabetes. Now, dark circles and bags under your eyes, water retention, puffy face, bad breath, fatigue after a good night's sleep, brain fog, difficulty remembering things, weight loss or weight plateau, difficulty healing from injuries even, or other pains like joint pain are signals that your body's detoxification system isn't functioning optimally. And we take this on in day 16 and 18 in toxin removal reset. Now, the whole point of this reset is not a detox. The point is to heal and take off the burden from your detox organs, your kidneys, liver, and colon, to bring them back to the optimum state so they are capable of removing the waste out of the body by themselves. Now, finally, sustaining healthy hormone function. We only start paying attention to our bodies when and only when something is not working properly, or it's not allowing us to do something that we desire, like having a child, pursuing a career, showing up in your business, seeing your grandchildren grow up, staying active, or simply having the possibility to enjoy every moment of your life free of mental and physical illness. We have been taught we don't need to prevent disease, so we learned habits that do cause toxic buildup, fat accumulation, inflammation, infertility, burnouts, emotional distress, depression, and anxiety. And so if we keep going in the same direction, the only office we're going to end up in is doctor's office. So what if you already hold the DNA codes inside of you that programs you to heal, that programs you to thrive? You just simply haven't tapped into them. This is what healthy DNA activation is for. Healthy DNA activation will happen in days 19 and 21. Reset number 7 concentrates on hormones in the last 3 days of the reset. It is there to set you up for a lifetime of health, beauty, ease from inside out. So, how many of the 7 key metabolic hormones do you think you need to reset? Now, this is what finally brings us to what we eat. What we eat also determines the balance and the function of our hormones. This is why the 21-day 7 key metabolic hormone reset module has been tried and tested time and time again, with an end result of a step-by-step process of creating new eating habits that move you away from anxious eating and help you step into intuitive eating and body eating. So you simply are guided step by step by incorporating new foods specific to healing regulating your hormones and by eliminating foods that are hindering your hormone balance. It takes about 3 days for one hormone to reset. Once we reset the whole chain, you will be nourished and your body will feel like it's second nature. You will not be given a diet plan. Instead, you will learn how to navigate according to what's best for your hormones, your gut, and the rest of the organs. You will receive guidance on getting your hormones tested, what supplements you need to take, how to navigate the kitchen, the supermarket. You will receive 45 plus recipe book of more than 50% of the recipes being under 15 minutes to prepare. And the best part is these recipes are specifically developed by me to restore your hormone balance. You will also receive resources like the full 7 key metabolic reset summary and grocery lists and everything else you need to make this journey as smooth as possible. This formula has changed my life and the lives of many and will continue to do so. This exact formula has been developed over the past 5 years. And in those 5 years, I went through my own body's reclamation. And it was the hardest time in my life. But I believed I could heal myself from within. And fast forward to today, I hold the tools to make it your reality too.